Hi everyone, welcome to Aussizz Conclave 4.0. We hope that you excited to know about the ACT and Tasmania latest update on state and regional state nomination process. Relax and enjoy your session. You are on good head. Let's start. I will give it to the Daksh and he will give you the presentation now.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for the introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Daksh. I'm registered migration agent working here with Aussizz Migration in Canberra. As you all know, what topics we are discussing is state nomination, basically ACT and Tasmania. All in all, the state nomination in terms of nomination process criteria and how you can claim points and how you can make your application better. Now, to start with, let's start with the ACT state. ACT being a smaller state this year, as every other state got cut down on quota by 70%. ACT also unfortunately received a less number of seats, 1,200 seats in financial year ending in 2024, which were quite significant less in compared to the financial year ending before 2023, in which the quota was 4,045 seats, if I'm not wrong. So quite significant cutoff. ACT had all 600 seats for 491 and 600 seats for 190. The nomination approval and remaining places has been changed since we have did this PPT. So ACT still did the last round very recently, so they are still in process of approving the nominations. We've got few applications to be processed as well, so I think mostly they don't have any other quota left, so I don't see any more round coming. But unlike other states where states have stopped taking the application, ACT at least never stops taking the application. You can still apply for the matrix. They would be doing a round once the new financial year seats would be received, but in meantime, again, as we all know that let's say Victoria is closed for this financial year, South Australia is closed for this financial year. Unlike other state, Victoria never closes. ACT never closes. ACT keeps on taking the applications. It's just the invitation rounds that stops. So yeah, you can still lodge a matrix. Now, ACT is the only unique state where it's not about the expression of interest. Basically, all other state follows the expression of interest points from the federal government. However, ACT is the only state where what points you have in the federal EOI doesn't really matter, as long as you have 65 points for 190 or 491, as you need to prove that to immigration to be invited. But apart from that, ACT only cares about what points you have in the matrix. I'll be covering the matrix points and how you can increase your points briefly in coming slides. But to just give you an idea, ACT has a common criteria. Basically, again, ACT has nothing like, it's not you can move in today and apply for an application tomorrow. There's a minimum waiting period. As for 190, you have to be staying here for 6 months and working for 6 months, minimum 30 hours per week in 26 weeks out of last 30 weeks minimum. And for 491, 20 hours per week for 13 weeks out of last 15 weeks. Then only you'd be able to apply for the nomination for either 190 or 491. And the offshore criteria as well, ACT being so transparent, they have, again, the only state where they does the invitation round regularly and publish the quota. So it's like same like 189, where if you have the points, which is the highest cutoff for that particular occupation, you do get invited. It's not matched on based on other factors. Let's say like Victoria or NSW, you have the same points and your friend has the same point, he might get invited on, you not, because there could be other different criterias. ACT doesn't go as per that. ACT has the points matrix where you have the highest points, the cutoff point is less than what points you have in the last whatever round happened, then you do get invited. Majorly, ACT has three pathways to get PR, so or 190 or 491. One is the ACT critical occupation list, where they have lots of occupation on the list, and if your occupation is one of them on the list, you can get invited based on the matrix points. The another one is 457 or 482 visa stream. So if you are a 457 or 482, which is an employer sponsor visas, if you are in that sort of visa, and you are working in ACT and your particular occupation is not on the Canberra's occupation list, you can still be invited. And third one being a small business owner stream. Now, the great part, again, few other states like Queensland and Tasmania has a small business owner stream, but Canberra is the only small business stream where you can even get invited for 190. Queensland has a small business owner stream, but you can only think of 491, and you have to have invested $100,000 as well. That's not the case with Canberra. You can start business with $0 investment and you can still be eligible for 190. I'll be covering that as well in the later slides. So stick around. Also, if anyone has any questions, start posting on the comment box. I'll try to cover maximum one of them at the end. And if you don't understand something, again, put it there. I'll try to cover it later. So ACT, as I said, matrix points. There are lots of different points you can get. First and foremost is living in ACT. Now, living in ACT, which means if you are living in Canberra, for 1 year, you get 5 points. For 2 years, you get 10 points. 3 years, you get 15 points. So basically, each year, you get 5 points up to 5 years plus. So if you 5 years, you get 25. 6th year, you don't get anything. That the 25 is the maximum points you can get for living. The stay doesn't have to be continuous. So let's say if someone lived here for 1 year, then went away for 1 year to, let's say, Victoria, and again came back and stayed for another years, they can claim points for 2 years rather than just 1. So it doesn't have to be continuous, but yes, you have to show that you have lived here. Plus, again, the only state where you cannot leave us for more than 6 weeks in 1 year. So if you are claiming points for 1 year of stay, then you cannot stay outside of Canberra, overseas or interstate for more than 6 weeks to get those 5 points. If you are claiming points for 2 or more years, you can again stay out 12 weeks each year, not combined. Each year, 12 weeks, up to 12 weeks, you can stay outside of Canberra and you can still get those stay points, but no more than that. So we really don't like anyone to leave us once you are here. So keep in mind that fact. Then there is standard English competency points. Now, again, Canberra being so different, English competency also gets different as in 2 ways. One, yes, with 7 each, everywhere you get 10 points. Canberra gives the 10 points as well for primary applicant having 7 each. But with superior, which means 8 each or equivalent score in PTE, you don't get 20, which you get in federal point system, you get 15 points. So as a primary applicant, if you have 8 each, you get 15 instead of 20. For 7, you do get 10, similar like federal point system. Different for spouse points as well. So spouse English in federal point system, you get 5 points for partner having competent English, which means 6 each in IELTS or equivalent in PTE. But in Canberra, if your partner has competent, which means 6 each or equivalent in PTE, you don't get any points. For partner to give you any English competency points, partner needs to score either proficient or superior. Same points for proficient or superior, 5 points, but nothing with competent English. Again, lots of my clients confuses this facts, but keep in mind it's a different point system than federal point system. Canberra follows the matrix. So matrix gives sort of different points. Now, here's the interesting one. Nominated occupation being on Canberra's occupation list, you get 20 points. Lots of my clients ask that whether do they have to be working for this? And answer is no. So let's say Canberra's critical occupation list has a occupation chef or ICT business analyst. Just because that it's your nominated occupation, which means you have skill assessment in one of those occupations, and you are nominating and lodging the metrics, you do get 20 points just because the occupation is on the list. You don't really need to be working. And points wise, you get 20 points for occupation being on the list. The next part, small business owner. So this is an interesting one, as I said earlier, that the all metrics points remain the same as it is, but you can be getting 10 or 20 more points based on the small business owner, and you can get invited for 190 or 491 depending on what is the cutoff points one has. Now, let's say if I have a business, and now again, as I said, keep in mind there is no minimum investment required unlike other states. Here you can just start a business with $0. I have done 190s or 491s in small business stream for food truck, for marketing business and whatnot. So it's really good pathway where you have to start a business, run it for 6 months, earn $100,000 out of it, not profit, 100,000 in gross revenue, and at least your business is in profit. Now, profit in the sense, there's no minimum requirement. Even business is profitable, which means even you have $5, $10, $15 of profit, you still can consider business as a profitable. Couple of more things. If you should have paid yourself from the business a salary of around $1,000 a week, and you should have had an employee who's permanent resident or citizen of Australia or a New Zealand citizen, worked within the business for 13 weeks. There could be 2 different employees as well, and doesn't have to be continuous, but 13 weeks, 1 or more Australian permanent resident or citizen or New Zealand citizen employee who's living in Canberra. If you're meeting all these requirements, you can get 10 points for running business for 6 months and 20 points for running the business for 12 months. And 12 months, the requirement increase for turnover is $200,000, which gives a quite significant boost into the small business owner stream in terms of points. And the second part is, if you are applying under small business stream, the applicant is not competing with other Canberra Matrix ACT skilled list of applicants. They have to fight with other small business streams. So usually we have seen that small business stream remains at a very less points than the actual occupation. So if to give you an idea, let's say if I'm an accountant and applying under ACT critical list, to get 190, I need to have 150 points in the matrix, and 491 around 135 points, which was the cutoff this year. But if I'm accountant and I am working under small business stream and I have opened a business, I can get invited if small business owner cutoff for the last round is 95 points. I can get invited at 95 points as well for 491, or 100 points for 190, then 190, depending on meeting other criteria. I don't have to fight with other accountants. So that's a really good point. So if someone's like entrepreneurs out there, if you are looking to start a business, do consider Canberra, because you do have a very good pathway of PR in that sense. Now, length of employment, again, the point where most of people get it wrong. Here it says length of employment, which means if I'm working 6 months Canberra-based employee with Canberra-based employer, then I get 5 points, and 12 months, then I get 10 points. Now, the requirement is that I have to be working minimum 20 hours per week, and if I'm looking at ABN income, then minimum $520 per week on ABN, as long as the ABN is registered in Canberra. So this job could be anything, doesn't have to be again necessarily to do anything with your nominated occupation. So let's say if I'm a mechanical engineer and working in a Woolworths as a night fill manager for 20 hours per week for over 1 year now, I do get 10 points of the length of employment, which means length of being employed in Canberra, and I don't really have to be working as a mechanical engineer or whatever my nominated occupation is. For working in nominated occupation, that's the interesting one. You do get more points. So let's say And there are quite a few points here to note down. So, sorry. Yeah. So let's say if I am a mechanical engineer, or let's say if I'm a civil engineer and I'm working as a civil engineer, earning more minimum $26 per hour, excluding casual leave loading, and I'm working a Canberra based with a Canberra based employer, I get another 20 points. Same way, if for 457 or 482 visa holders, for them to get working in the nominated occupation, which is they are anyways working, because you can't be here on 48457 or 482 visa if you are not working in your nominated occupation, they get 15 points. So 5 less point than being a critical skill occupation list. But let's say if someone's like me couldn't find employment in my nominated occupation, I still can score more points. If you look at the last 2 points, if I'm working in any occupation which is on ACT's critical occupation list and I have a tertiary qualification in that, I can get 10 points. So let's say, again, to put it in example, if I'm a ICT security specialist, I have skills assessment from ACS as an ICT security specialist. I couldn't get job in IT, but I'm working as a chef in a restaurant and I have certificate 4 in commercial cookery. I do get 10 points extra on top of length of employments just because I'm working in a skilled occupation. Again, do not compare it with that you need a skills assessment. In that, you don't really need a skills assessment by just having the qualification and the work experience as a chef. As long as you worked for 13 weeks as a chef, you do get 10 points. So again, if you're not getting a points in your job in your nominated occupation, try and find something which is in the list but not your skilled occupation, and you can still score 10 extra points. And same thing, a skill level 1 to 3 job, but it's not on Canberra's occupation list, you can get 5 more points. So let's say I'm working as a retail manager, which is a skill level 2 occupation, and that is not on Canberra's occupation list, but I still would get 5 extra points. So just keep in mind that there are lots of points in the matrix as long as you know how to navigate it, which you can get rather than just focusing. If you are getting your field job, great, but if not, you don't need to be worried about. You can explore other options as well. Now, the spouse points again. Usually, as I said, in federal point system, partner has to have 6 each for 5 points and skills assessment for another 5. So then partner can give 10 points. Here, partner can give way more than 10 points, but even if you want to get 10 points, partner necessarily doesn't have to have a skills assessment. 7 each in English and 3 months of work experience in Canberra for any sort of job, and partner can still give you those 5 points as well. So 5 points for English, 5 points for any sort of job without skills assessment, total 10 points partner can give you. So no need to have a skills assessment. If they do have, however, skills assessment and working in their nominated occupation, they can give you 15 points for the work experience and 5 for English, so 20. So you can score way more than 10 points, which federal government, in federal EOI, you can score for partner maximum 10 points. Here you can go up to 20 points maximum, as long as the partner either 10 points for English and normal sort of work experience, or 20 points for English and skills assessment plus nominated occupation job. So you can explore that pathway as well to increase the points. Now, the level of the qualification gives more points as well in Canberra. So again, there are 2 different points in there. One is having the highest qualification. That gives points, let's say for a diploma 5 points, bachelor or trade certificate, which means if I have a bachelor level degree anywhere in the world, doesn't have to be in Canberra or even in Australia, anywhere in the world, or a trade certificate, which means certificate in cookery, automotive, painting, I get 10 points. For masters, I get 15, and for doctoral, I get 20 points. However, if that degree is in Canberra, then you get another points for length of study as well. So let's say if I have completed 1 year of study in Canberra, 5 points. For 2 years, it's 10, 315, and 420. So maximum 20 points anyone can get for years of study in Canberra. Keep in mind, Canberra does consider professional year program as a length of study as well. So let's say if someone has finished a bachelor's or master's level degree in IT in Melbourne or Sydney and moved to Canberra during their 485 visa and do their professional year program here, they do get for master's level degree 15 points, which is level of qualification, and 5 points for 1 year of professional year program studied in Canberra. So that's another option as well where you can increase your points. Lastly, these are the two where you have a close family member, which means, let's say if you have a family member who is permanent resident or citizen of Canberra and living here for more than in Canberra 2 years, then you can get 10 or 20 points. Now 10 points for parent, grandparent, brother, sister, aunt or uncle, and 20 points for having partner who's permanent resident or citizen in Australia, or child, and you can score those points. And then the 5 points for minimum $250,000 cash investment in residential or commercial property. Usually till date I haven't seen anyone having this, but yeah, you are more than welcome. If you have money, you can invest and you can get 5 points for just investment as well. So this is the all in all point system where you have to collect your points, you can increase your point score, and then depending on that, basically you get invited. You now, after doing all this, let's say if I'm a business analyst and after doing all this calculations based on my profile, if I come up to the 95 points and ACT does an invite round for, let's say, 491 where the cutoff was 90 points, then I would definitely get invited. There is no doubt about it, as long as I have more than cutoff points in my nominated occupation. And as I said, Canberra being so transparent state, they do publish minimum cutoff points for each occupation after each invite round. And I have come across an incident where I have got a client who had more than a cutoff point in her nominated occupation from Canberra in that particular round. She didn't somehow get invite, and we sent an email to the ACT state stating that our client had more points than the cutoff points. She didn't get invite. They did issue invite separately, and they said, oh, somehow they missed it, but that's how transparent they are. So in terms of transparency and being on collecting points, Canberra can be a very good state where, again, not trying to demotivate clients in Victoria or Sydney, but yeah, so where you don't have idea that when you are gonna get invited based on your profile, but you do have a transparency here. So think of coming to Canberra. Yeah, so this is the basically an example what I was saying earlier. At the moment, having the XYZ occupation on the list and having this sort of points, you have 75 points, and then your partner, if in your nominated occupation, if the point cutoff was 70, then you would get invited for sure. Some of the highlights, yeah, as I said, don't get scared with this crazy numbers, because this year was tough, and especially for Canberra having lesser seats. But yes, some of the highlights of this year were for 491 you needed 125 points as an accountant, and for 190 140. Chefs got quite tough competition as well at 125 for 491 and 130 for 190. Now again, nurses and teachers were, anyways, the point cutoff is low, so that stayed low here as well. But apart from that, all the other occupation. But again, to just give you an idea, last financial year where Canberra has decent amount of seats, 2,000 or 3,000 odd for 491 and 1,500 odd for 190. I don't remember those figures exactly top of my head, but at that time when this was the scenario, these points were staying, let's say for IT professionals, points were staying at 75 to 85 for 491 and 85 to 90 or 95 for 190, which is quite easy. Not easy as per se, but then it's achievable without even having a job in your nominated occupation. So that's the beauty of Canberra. But this year, obviously, points stayed high. Now, another state which I'll be covering is Tasmania. Again, unfortunately, Tasmania was also the state which was hit hard in terms of having the lesser seats. They also received only 600 seats each 600 seats each for each subclass 190 and 491, and Tasmania had like really made it complicated this year, where they have got different pathways, different colors based on priority was given and stuff like that. So they made it like a really complicated system. I'll try to help you to understand and navigate here at the moment. But yes, Tasmania was really, I would say really, but yes, it was a difficult state to get nomination from, at least this financial year. Now, they also had a system for ROI where 190 was just a moment. Yeah, so they Tasmania had the system of ROI where they mostly consider for 190 under the gold pass, where um, uh, for 491 they had more flexibilities but for 190 mostly they were considering applicants with graduates from their states and having the jobs in their states. So according to that only, they did give the invites under 190. 491 had a bit of flexibility in terms of having the moved to Tasmania after the graduation and working in your nominated occupation or in an other skilled jobs. Then they had chances, but not much for 190 if you moved after the graduation. Okay, sorry, just a moment. Yeah, so Tasmania State had the pathway of having EOI, lodging an EOI, then doing an ROI. ROI is based on the different passes and different criterias. Then you wait for an invitation to apply for a nomination. Once the nomination is approved, basically, again, you get invited in your skill select UI, and then you apply for the visa application. Now, to give you the bit of highlight, for 190, 6 months of work experience in Tasmania occupation skill select occupation list, basically, where some of the occupations were added later on as well, for which the priority attributes were given to the 3 months of work in critical, which is gold pass, and 6 months of work experience into the skills assessment occupations, which were considered in green pass. The graduates, however, again completed 2 years of study in Tasmania. They also had the priority attributes of 3 months of work experience in critical list, which they were considered under gold pass, and 6 weeks of work related to Tasmanian study, which were considered in orange pass. And there was another pathway of the established resident as well, where if you have lived in Tasmania for 3 years and working in any skill level 1 to 5. Now, skill level 1 to 5 is like each and every occupation in Australia has been assigned a skill level, where if you are working in those sort of skill level jobs, let's say, if to give you an example, to do some job, if you, again, it's not applicable everywhere, but to just give you a thumb rule, if you want to require bachelor or higher level a degree to do some jobs, then those are the skill level 1 jobs. Let's say like mechanical engineer. To be a mechanical engineer, you need to have a bachelor's in engineering or higher qualification, then only usually you can work as a mechanical engineer. So that's a skill level 1 job. Trade sort of certificates considered in skill level 2 or 3. So let's say chef is skill level 2, cook is skill level 3, and other jobs where you can do with just the certification, smaller certification basis, those are skill level 4 and 5, like aged care workers and stuff like that. So those can be considered in skill level 4 and 5. So yes, if you've been living for 3 years and working in one of the critical roles in Tasmania, you were considered to be under gold pass, and 3 months work related skills assessment green pass, and have at least proficient English, then orange pass. Keep in mind, orange pass did get the highest priority. Now, again, business operated pathway, as I told you, mostly apart from ACT, none of the state has 190 pathway for the business attribute. So no, Tasmania also didn't have 190 pathway for the business owners. It was considered to be under 491 pathway. Now, overseas, yes, they did have the pathway where you can lodge an ROI if you have a job offer from Tasmania-based employer in health related sector, then they were considering under 190, and you have a job offer related to your occupation which is not in health, then you were considered for 491. The 491 criteria were bit relaxed than 190. You can see here that business operated pathway also had 491, where you have a business operated business for 1 year and have personal income of more than 59,500. And according to the priority attributes, if you have invested more than $200,000 in the business, you were considered under green pass, and have the qualification related to the business, then orange pass. Again, as I said, in other states, the business require, apart from Canberra, business requires some sort of minimum investment. So you have to have money invested within the business, and you need to show and prove to the state, then only they would consider under the business operated pathway. Graduate pathway, again 491, where you have completed 1 year of work study in Tasmania and have 6 weeks of related work experience in Tasmania to study, orange pass, and you could get invited there. And in established pathway for 491, the requirement was 2 years. Apart from that, every other requirement remained the same. All right, Tasmanian nomination pathway and change is going to happen. So following occupation were about to be added again. Right now, Tasmania is also closed, so we have to wait for all these occupation changes to happen in next financial year. So till then, yes, but this is the occupation you can take a snapshot of. Now, again, just to give you some important tips, both Tasmania and ACT is critical based nomination, which happens to all the smaller state nomination programs, where they don't really emphasize on having higher points in your EOIs. They don't want points in EOI. They want you to meet the criteria of the particular state. So EOI doesn't have to be claimed. I have seen in circumstances, and at the moment, in fact, I'm dealing with a couple of clients where they overclaimed point in the EOI, and they were meeting all the state nomination criteria, did get invite from the state as well, and now they couldn't prove those points, which they got confused between federal and state, and got confused, claim overly points which they couldn't prove. So after all their hard work of living, working, meeting the state requirement, getting nominated by the state, they still got refusal for their visa application because points were overclaimed, and there's nothing immigration can do about it. If you cannot prove the points in your EOI, no matter how you got your invitation on which state nomination, you would not get visa. So make sure, just because the states don't require higher points, you don't really need to overclaim. So talk to someone and get their opinion. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day and enjoy your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.